We're covering special senses, and there's 5 special senses, and this could be pretty lengthy, so we're going to cover it in 2 parts. We'll start by covering the first 3. We'll cover olfaction, which is smell, and then hearing and equilibrium, or our balance. So what I want to discuss first is a review of our cranial nerves. We have 12 pairs of cranial nerves, but as we discuss the ones that are controlling our special senses, let's start with just olfaction. Cranial nerve number 1 is specifically a special sensory nerve just for smell. Later we'll cover vision, later we'll cover taste, but then let's get into vestibulocochlear. There's 2 branches of it, the vestibular nerve and the cochlear nerve. The vestibular nerve is handling my balance and equilibrium, and then my hearing is handled by my cochlear branch. The vestibular branch and the cochlear branch come together to become cranial nerve number 8, vestibulocochlear nerve. So that's a quick review of the nerves. Let's get into olfaction. I try to simplify this. I've been teaching anatomy for about 24 years now. I want to simplify this as best I can. Smell is the easiest one to do because there's less identification. Because essentially what we're using is the olfactory nerve, and it actually has 2 pieces for the olfactory nerve. It has a bulb, and then the rest of it is the tract. But the way we stimulate it is as I breathe in, as we go through our nasal conchae and our meatai, and remember our superior nasal and middle nasal conchae are part of the ethmoid bone, and as I come up through the ethmoid bone, this olfactory nerve is sitting right on a cribriform plate in between a crista galli, and then I have holes in that cribriform plate called olfactory foramina because it's holes to be able to smell the molecules that I breathe in. So as I breathe in, and I smell those molecules, it's all going to change depending on the molecular weight and the vapor pressure of what you're breathing. But as I come through, I stimulate the nerve, and it's the rare example to where we actually bypass the thalamus. And if you remember, we learned the thalamus is the sensory relay station. All of our special senses go through the thalamus except for smell or olfaction. It's going directly to the lobe or the cerebral cortex that handles the smell, and that's occurring at the temporal lobe. So I go straight from my olfactory nerves to the temporal lobe. And remember, this is just the actual sequence of how do we create those action potentials to create that sense of smell. You still have that higher learning, that thought, that memory associated with smells, that you smell something and go, oh, I remember that smells so good, to where you associate with something in your life because you're learning from it. It's also a form of protection of understanding if I smell fire or something burning, that alerts me. So there's a learning process associated with that. So smell is pretty basic when it comes to those structures. So let's get into hearing and just understanding the structures of hearing. And as I use that for the structures, we're going to talk about the basic flow of the sound. Sound is based off of mechanoreceptors, which is pressure. When we just covered olfaction, those are chemicals you're breathing in, so those are chemoreceptors to talk to the nerve. Now we're using pressure. So the louder the sound, the more it's putting pressure on fluids in the inner ear. And as I look at this structure on the right here, this is actually taking a piece of the petrous portion of the petrous part, that bony landmark of the temporal bone. And within it, I have my inner ear structures that we're trying to get to feel that sound based on the frequency and the amplitude of how that's occurring is with pressure of fluids. And we'll talk about those fluids. But I start by capturing the sound, and I do that with the auricle or the pinna, which is my ear. My elastic cartilage is grabbing on to the sound. So it pulls it in, and then it's going to go through what we call the external acoustic meatus, or external auditory canal. So we're talking about how do we then move it inside. Once we get it inside, we hit this connective tissue sheet here called the tympanic membrane, also known as the eardrum. So that tympanic membrane, our eardrum, the louder the sound, the more it's actually hitting on it like it's an actual drum. So I hit the tympanic membrane, and then it hits what we call ossicles. And ossicles are the smallest bones in our body. It's called the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Malleus is referring to like a hammer or mallet based on its shape. Connected to it is the incus. It's supposed to resemble an anvil. And then the triangle piece that it connects to is the stapes. So the sound will vibrate through these small little bones. It's harder to see them on this picture here, but it'll go from malleus, incus, and stapes over in that order. So I have the sound come in, hits the drum, connects to malleus, vibrates the incus, vibrates the stapes. And now I finally get to where I'm going into the internal part of it that we call the inner ear. We get inside by way of what we call an oval window to where that vibration is processing inside. And now we're going to take this piece here and expand on it. So I'm going to look at these structures here and then this piece here. So on this picture, we can expand on that piece. And we're looking at this to where we divide this first into hearing and balance and equilibrium. So as I take a line here and I go down, all of this where it looks like a snail, this is called the cochlea. So cochlea, number 3, cochlea means snail. This is handling hearing. So all the vibrations of those bones are triggering fluid responses inside the cochlea. And then we're going to break down those fluids and the ducts within them, because there's 3 ducts that are spiraling through here. On this side, this is all balance and equilibrium. So I split this off. Balance and equilibrium are all these structures. On this side, this is for hearing, which is the cochlea. So let's look at these structures and then we'll break down the cochlea. So as I look at the cochlea, it's got multiple spinning and spiral ducts to it. Continuous inside, there's fluids inside these structures. Number 2, this bulbous base is called the vestibule. The vestibule. So this base then holds all of these semicircular ducts. And the actual canals is the bony labyrinth. So you're actually looking at the semicircular canals and the ducts are inside the canal. So you may see those 2 terms depending on how it's opened it up. So 1, 1, and 1 are semicircular canals. That's the bony piece to it. Within it, I have semicircular ducts where the fluid's processing. So it's all based on movement of the fluids. So when I look inside the vestibule has these structures that I can't see called a utricle and a saccule. These are membranous sacs to be able to understand how I'm moving, and we call that gravity and linear acceleration. Easy way to describe that is if I'm in an elevator and my body senses that I'm moving up and down versus then linear acceleration as I'm moving in a car. The only thing about that, though, as a human species, we weren't designed to be in cars or elevators, so it's basically my ability to walk and run and understand gravity and when my feet are going to hit the ground. And we're going to use other structures, including things like the cerebellum of the brain, proprioceptors to understand where I'm at in space. But gravity and linear acceleration is controlled within the vestibule. What's in the vestibule? The utricle and saccule, which are membranous sacs that contain cells to monitor the movement of the fluids inside. Then I have my 3 semicircular canals with the ducts inside. And so there's a lateral one, an anterior one, and a posterior one. I just call them all semicircular ducts. But when I look at this, the lateral one is detecting my movement side to side as if I'm saying no. They're like, yeah, I don't want to learn this stuff. So side to side movements. The anterior one is more up and down. Yes, I love this stuff. I want to learn it. So as I go up and down. And then my posterior one is referring to just overall like side to side rocking my head movements. So between the 3 of these, it's detecting continuously with pressure of the fluids as it moves to understand where I'm at. And this is where we end up with like motion sickness. That what happens is I'm moving in the car, my body doesn't quite understand it because the eyes are telling me that I am moving or I'm not moving because I'm actually just sitting. It's the car that's moving, and it creates an imbalance and makes us have that motion sickness. So all of this on this side is related to balance and equilibrium. Back to the cochlea. The cochlea is for hearing. Remember we said that it's spiraling with 3 ducts. The best way to learn this is to look at the histology slide of it. So let's go into histology. I took those ducts, and there's 3 ducts that continuously spiral. So you think about if you had a garden hose, that's 1 duct that's spiraling, fill it with 2 other ducts, and I'm just spiraling it through. And I teach it like this is the top and the bottom. So when we look at this, it's just the spiraling of the ducts with the fluids inside. On the top, I call this the vestibular duct. Over here, you could also call it scala
vestibuli.
And then within the middle, I have the cochlear duct. And then down below, I have tympanic duct, which you can also call scala tympani. So I have 3 ducts that continuously spin. We teach this as the top and the bottom, and I'm referencing the membranes to do this. But remember, it's spinning. So the top, vestibular duct, the middle, cochlear duct, the bottom, tympanic duct. How am I recognizing these? I highlight some of the membranes. So this thin line is called the vestibular membrane, which is the boundary from vestibular duct, cochlear duct. And then I have down at the base here, this is called the basilar membrane. So basilar membrane is the separation between cochlear duct and tympanic duct. I also have this little piece here called a tectorial membrane. And when you look at histology, this could be down here. It could extend up, and it's this flap that'll move a little bit. And it's these membranes that are helping to recognize the pressure based on the sound and the frequency it's coming into my ears. Within these, I have fluids. On the top and bottom towards the periphery, the fluid is called the perilymph. So perilymph on the top, perilymph on the bottom. In the middle, I have endolymph. It's more inside, endolymph. Endolymph resembles more like cerebrospinal fluid. Perilymph and perilymph top and bottom. The difference between the two is just based on sodium and potassium. Because the concentrations change, it creates that action potential. So what happens is, as the fluid is creating movements based on the pressure and the sound, it puts pressure on my membranes, basilar membrane, tectorial membrane. And what it's putting pressure on is the deflection of some of our hair cells inside here. If you look over here, this calls this the organ of Corti, which is also called the spiral organ. So this entire area here where I have cells called hair cells, and they're called hair cells because they have hairs on top of them. Those actual hairs are cilia, specifically stereocilia. Those cilia are moving based on the pressure with the membranes, and as they're deflected, they're creating an action potential. That action potential, no different than we talked about other types of neuronal impulses, is stimulating the nerve, specifically the cochlear branch, which is part of the vestibular cochlear nerve, to then talk to the brain. So again, when we look at the inside of a cochlea, this is a cross-section and looking at histology of it, 2 types of fluids, perilymph and perilymph, that's in the vestibular membrane, the tympanic membrane, and then in the cochlear duct, I have endolymph. As I have more sound and I put more pressure, it's stimulating my basilar membrane, my tectorial membrane, that deflects the hair cells to create an action potential to give me that sound. So this is our starting point of understanding when we look at special senses. Hearing is a little bit more complicated because we're using the balance of the fluids and the pressure. And same with equilibrium. On the next video, we'll talk about vision, and then we'll look at taste. I also have a study guide for this if this helps you to understand what we're learning here to guide you through the processes using some of the pictures we learned today.